Hi everyone, hello, how are you doing? I hope everyone is doing good. So, welcome to another video of respiration and circulation. We were talking about the mechanism of respiration, that is inspiration and expiration. Okay, now having discussed about the mechanism of breathing on a broader outlook, now we move a bit in detail. So, in this video, we will see at the alveolar level how gases are exchanged. Basically, in this, we will be talking about the factors that is responsible for the exchange of gases. And in the next video, we will go in more detail where how the oxygen and the carbon dioxide are exchanged at the alveoli and tissue level. Okay, so basically, uh, for respiration or for exchange of gases to happen, you have various factors that will come into picture. That is the pressure of the air inside and outside, how much concentration of oxygen is there, as well as carbon dioxide is there, thickness of the membrane, and all that. Okay, so basically, the exchange of gases requires different steps. Okay, so different degrees of effort in breathing. Okay, that move different volume of air in and out of the lungs. Yes, so this is all about the respiration in one line. And if you want to measure these volumes, you can take this instrument known as spirometry, wherein how much volume of air you are taking in, how much volume of air is given out. Okay, the remnant air which is there inside the lungs, in different parts of the respiratory tract. So all of that is measured, and that can be measured and take a note of in diagnosis and treatment. So this instrument is known as spirometry, measurement of volume of these gases when you're taking in of when you're taking in air and you're giving it out. Just a one-line definition at the beginning of the video. Now we move to the exchange of gases. So exchange of gases will occur at two places: alveoli and blood, and then blood and alveoli. So what happens from the alveoli and blood? You have taken in air from the lungs to the bronchus. It has entered into the alveoli, which are in connection to the blood. Okay. Yes. So gas exchange between the air and the blood. What happened? The gas diffuse generally. The law is from higher partial pressure of that particular gas, it will naturally, automatically move towards lower partial pressure. Okay, from high to low. Just understand this simple concept, like in osmosis and in diffusion, in simple diffusion, from higher concentration to lower concentration. Similarly, here from higher partial pressure of the gas regions to the regions of the lower partial pressure of the gas. So let's say you take two compartments and your oxygen is more and your oxygen is less. Here the partial pressure of the gas oxygen is more, so automatically it will move from this side to this side, as simple as that. Okay, so oxygen diffuses from the alveoli into the blood. So the partial pressure of the oxygen is more into the alveoli because you have freshly uh, inhaled air, so there the oxygen will be more. So automatically from the alveoli it will go where? It will go into the blood. Okay, and carbon dioxide from the blood will go into the alveoli because the blood has taken all the waste material, that is the carbon dioxide, more amount of carbon dioxide, collected all the carbon dioxide from different parts of the body, and now it will bring back to the towards the alveoli. So naturally the carbon dioxide will diffuse from the blood to the alveoli head. What happens from blood to tissue? Okay, so this is at the alveoli and blood. Now you bring oxygen to the blood, and then the tissue, they are doing the metabolic activities, they're releasing waste material, they're releasing carbon dioxide as a side product. So how the exchange will take place? There also the simple the simple law will apply. The gas will diffuse from high partial pressure towards low partial pressure. So again, you can just say this is a barrier, and let's say this is the blood and this is the tissue. Here the carbon dioxide is more, let's say, because more carbon dioxide is getting produced. because of the metabolic activities, and here the blood is bringing in more oxygen and carbon dioxide is less. Over here carbon dioxide is less. Okay, so automatically the carbon dioxide will move from the tissues to the blood, like that. Okay, so here oxygen will diffuse from the blood to the tissue, and oxygen at the same time, when the blood is taking, you have the blood and you have the tissue. The carbon dioxide moves from tissue to the blood. Similarly, the oxygen is more in the blood and less in the tissue. So oxygen will move from the blood to the tissue because it is bringing fresh oxygen to the tissue to carry out its metabolic activities, and carbon dioxide will diffuse from the tissue into the blood. I hope this is understandable. At the level of alveoli and blood, alveoli, more air is coming in, oxygen will diffuse from alveoli to the blood, and carbon dioxide will diffuse from blood to the alveoli. At the level of blood and the tissue, the blood is bringing more oxygen for the tissue, so it will automatically, the partial pressure of the oxygen of the blood is more as compared to tissue. Oxygen will diffuse from the blood to the tissue, and carbon dioxide partial pressure is more in the tissue because of the activities that are happening. So carbon dioxide is less in the blood, so it will diffuse from the tissue into the blood. Okay, so as you can see in this diagram over here, yes, when you inhale, partial pressure of the oxygen is more as compared to the carbon dioxide in the alveoli. This is the alveoli. Okay, the inhaled air partial pressure is of oxygen is more and carbon dioxide is less. So automatically oxygen will go into the blood. Yes, here the carbon dioxide partial pressure is less. And if you can see this outlet over here the partial pressure of carbon dioxide is more, which is coming from the tissue. So obviously, this carbon dioxide will diffuse over here, and oxygen will diffuse from the alveoli into the blood vessels, into the blood. Then at the tissue level, this is at the tissue level. Tissue level, again, the blood is dropping the oxygen from the arteries to the tissue, because here the partial pressure, you can see it is 95 as compared to the partial pressure of the carbon dioxide, it is less. So oxygen will diffuse in this direction, and carbon dioxide, you can see carbon dioxide is more in the measurement of the partial pressure as compared to oxygen. So it will diffuse in opposite direction. So as simple as that. Okay. This is how the exchange will take place. So also there are other factors, like one factor that we discussed in detail is the pressure and the gradient concentration. That is what we have just discussed. Also the solubility of the gas, that is which gas is more soluble, oxygen or carbon dioxide. Okay, then how thick is the membrane of the alveoli, that also determines how easily the gas can move from one part to the other, from one compartment to the another compartment. Also the surface area of the lungs. So all these factors defines, depends, the gas exchange depends on all these factors. Yes, having understood this in a bit more detail, moving to one more aspect of that. Okay, as you can see in the slide, the pressure gradient in the air. So in air, you have nitrogen approximately 78, oxygen 20%, carbon dioxide only 0.04%. So this determines, yes. So your gas exchange, you say that air is a mixture of gases. Like you have nitrogen also, you have oxygen also, you have carbon dioxide also, you have water, you have other trace gases also. But how only oxygen is taken, because oxygen is required by the body, so the body is accustomed to, out of oxygen and carbon dioxide, which is in more concentration, oxygen. Okay, so as you can see, atmospheric air, respiratory gas, we will focus only on oxygen, carbon dioxide. Oxygen is way more higher as compared to carbon dioxide. So that is how it facilitates the air to rush into the lungs, into the alveoli, as you can see. Yes, taken to the blood and then finally to the tissues. Okay, and this vice versa will happen from the tissue to the alveoli when exhalation is happening, depending upon the partial pressure of the carbon dioxide. So all this will depend, the exchange of gases depends on this one important factor, which is the composition or the pressure gradient of these gases. Okay. So basically this is given by Dalton's law. Total atmospheric pressure is what? Sum of the partial pressure of the individual gases. This is what we have just discussed. So one factor is the pressure and the concentration gradient. How much is the oxygen, how much is the carbon dioxide? That will determine the exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide between the blood, the tissue, and the alveoli. Then the next factor is the solubility of the gases. So out of the two, carbon dioxide is more soluble. It's 20 to 25 times more higher than that of oxygen. It is more soluble as compared to that of oxygen. Okay. So the amount of carbon dioxide that which can diffuse through the membrane is way more higher in terms of partial pressure also as compared to that of oxygen. Okay. Okay. So though the concentration of oxygen, carbon dioxide is very less in various places, but the solubility is quite more. So wherever the carbon dioxide has to move from the tissue to the blood and from the blood to the alveoli during exhalation, it will be readily diffused and dissolved and taken out of the body. Okay. Then the third factor, so we discussed the concentration gradient, the solubility of the gas. Then the third factor is the thickness of the membrane. Okay, thickness of the membrane, as you can see over here, all these alveolus, one sac is having outer membrane, inner membrane, as you can see. Yes, they are surrounded by these blood vessels. So you have the alveolus, the outer layer is with the surfactant. Then this is the epithelial membrane, basement membrane. In between space is there, and then this is the actual blood. Okay, so oxygen will be diffusion will take place from the alveoli into the blood. So it has to cross all these barriers. It has to cross all these barriers. Also the membrane barrier of the the blood vessels. Okay, of the capillaries, that also has to be crossed. So these barriers has to be crossed. This will also determine how easily the gases can be exchanged to and fro. Okay, so the diffusion membrane is made up of three major layers. Think squamous epithelium alveoli, endothelium of the alveolar capillary, and the basement substance in between them. Okay, let's just mark out. Take another color. Okay, so this basement membrane, yes, which is in between them, the squamous epithelium of the alveoli and the endothelium of alveolar capillaries. So this is the capillary endothelium, this layer, and this is your alveolar epithelium. Can you see? So one membrane, this, and the another membrane over here, and the in-between space you can see the basement membrane. So this will determine, these three barriers will determine the diffusion of the gases. So how thick, how thin they are, that will be the factor deciding the exchange of gases. This thickness is approximately very less than a millimeter. Okay. Moving to the next factor, the fourth factor, that is the surface area of the respiratory membrane, which is more than alveoli. The surface area will be more. You will understand, you have come across the surface area, you have studied in detail in physics time and again. Okay, how the surface area increases the area for, it increases the overall area. Yes, so alveolar increases the surface area of the lungs, and this helps in increasing the gaseous exchange that will take place between the capillaries, the oxygenated or the deoxygenated blood, and the alveoli. Okay. So, fourth factor, very simple to understand. And finally, the transport of gases. Okay. So blood transports oxygen and carbon dioxide between the lungs and the body cells. Yes, uh, the blood will carry both oxygen and carbon dioxide both, and to and fro from the lungs to the body cells, from the body cells to the lungs. So as the gas enters the blood, they will, when it is into the blood, they will dissolve in the plasma, or they will combine into some other chemical form, with other atoms or molecules. How it is combined, we are going to see that in the next video when we will discuss the actual exchange of carbon dioxide and oxygen at the tissue level and the alveolar level in detail. So that we will be seeing in detail in the next video. So this is another factor that will determine how much of gas will be exchanged between the body and the lungs. Okay. Also, the amount of hemoglobin in the blood, that is one of the important factors which will determine, because hemoglobin is the protein pigment which is present in your RBCs, which carries oxygen. If your hemoglobin is not there, uh, no matter how much oxygen you take in, it will be not accurately reach to different parts of the body wherever it is required. So hemoglobin is very important. It's a protein. We have discussed this in the previous chapters, right? In the details of the hemoglobin, the structure. Okay. Basically, hemoglobin is made up of these four polypeptide chain, the alpha and the beta chain. It has four places for carrying four heme group, basically. Okay. Four oxygen atoms can be taken in for one hemoglobin molecule. Iron is at the center of all these, at each of this heme group. Okay, the hemoglobin takes up oxygen from the lungs, forming oxyhemoglobin. Okay, and when we are saying the blood carries oxygen and transport it to different parts of the cells and deposits, so actually which part of the blood? The RBC, the red blood cell. Which component in the red blood cell? The hemoglobin. Okay, so it takes up oxygen, it combines, the hemoglobin combines with oxygen, forms oxyhemoglobin, and when the blood is moving throughout the body through the capillary, wherever the oxygen is required, the oxygen will be deposited. Hemoglobin will detach oxygen from itself, and now oxygen is separated from the hemoglobin, so they become two different molecules now. So some of the oxyhemoglobin releases oxygen and then they become deoxyhemoglobin. Okay, so like that. So that's all for this video, wherein we were discussing the factors, right? So the factors for exchange of gases, the pressure, the solubility of gas, the thickness of the membrane, the surface area, and the transport of gases. Okay, so that's all for this video. Make a note of whatever you have not understood and reach out to me. We can discuss in more detail depending upon your understanding. So in the next video, we will be talking about the exchange of gases, that is oxygen and carbon dioxide transport in more detail. That's all. Thank you for this video. See you in the next video. Bye bye.